voting in UK elections.
Jackson, who worked closely with Martin Luther King, is to address students at Cambridge University tonight. Our reporter Malcolm Robertson is in Cambridge for us, and he joins us now. Malcolm.
Well, yes, quite a coup for the Cambridge Union. In fact, students already queuing to see the Reverend Jackson, who'll be here in about an hour and a quarter. And, of course, in his role as a major civil rights leader, he'll be addressing the students and taking part in a question and answer session. Well, earlier this afternoon, we saw the Reverend Jackson a few miles from here at the American Military Cemetery at Madingley, where more than 3,800 Americans are buried, and he laid a wreath in tribute to their efforts during the Second World War. His is one of the most recognisable faces on the international stage. Today, on the first day of spring, and in what some might describe as the autumn of his political life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson was at the American Military Cemetery at Madingley to see for himself the sacrifices made by thousands of his fellow countrymen and women. A poignant visit ahead of his address to students at the Cambridge Union.
We fought a necessary war and won the war. Some wars now seem to be made for TV wars. Some even unnecessary wars. One might question the necessity of the Iraq War.
3,812 Americans killed in East Anglia during the Second World War are buried at Madingley, remembered forever by simple white crosses. On this wall, the names of more than 5,000 others who went missing, among them Joseph Kennedy, older brother of President John Kennedy. It was about the time of his assassination that a young Jesse Jackson became involved in the civil rights movement in America, and he's been a leading figure for almost 50 years. In the 60s, he worked closely with Martin Luther King up until Dr. King's assassination. By the late 1970s, he was campaigning against South African apartheid and arguing for a Palestinian state. In the 80s, he twice ran unsuccessfully for the Democratic presidential nomination, establishing him as the country's best-known black politician. In 1997, Bill Clinton named Jackson as his special envoy to Africa, and more recently, he supported Britain's Black Vote campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen,
just over a year ago, we saw the Reverend Jackson overcome by emotion at Barack Obama's victory rally. He believes you can trace the campaign to elect a black president back to the loss of Afro-Americans during the Second World War.
The soldiers had a claim to the country. No one could question their right to be. And these are the guys who came back home. This is the group that laid the groundwork for Barack Obama.
Jesse Jackson has been critical of American involvement in recent conflicts around the world, but he acknowledges the deaths of so many Americans during the Second World War was a price that simply had to be paid.
Malcolm, judging by that queue behind you, there's been quite an interest in this visit.
David, there is, yes. They've started filing in, although it's still an hour to go. And, yes, we're expecting about 500 students there tonight, all members only, so if you're not a student, you won't get in. And it actually started quite a busy and interesting time for the Cambridge Union, because on Thursday, the topic for debate is, are the Tories fit to govern? And we'll be hearing from the former Home Secretary, Charles Clarke. I think David would probably know what he might say on that one. And then next week, which is the last one before the end of term, we'll be hearing from Max Clifford. He'll be taking part in a debate about reality television. So it promises to be an interesting few days for the Cambridge Union, but there's no doubt that it's the arrival of the Reverend Jesse Jackson will be seen as the real coup for them.
Malcolm, thanks very much indeed. Anyone would think there's an election on the way. A coroner has questioned equipment, training and mine detection drills in the run-up to the death of a female soldier from Bedfordshire and 3 of her comrades in Afghanistan. Corporal Sarah Bryant, who was 26 and from Chicksands, was killed when her Snatch Land Rover was hit by a mine in 2008. She was the first woman soldier to be killed in Afghanistan. A soldier told the inquest a Snatch Land Rover was unsuitable for the conditions.
Campaigners hoping to save Britain's only Roman chariot track have hit their first fundraising target of £200,000. The group want to purchase and renovate the old army barracks and surrounding land in Colchester, where the starting gates once stood. In the 2nd century, the track was over 400 metres long. The group hoping to save it say they've been overwhelmed by the public's support.
It's been a fantastic effort by everyone in Colchester, but what we will need from now on is people perhaps who haven't been able to donate money to perhaps donate their skills. So we need people like carpenters and plasterers and painters and anyone who's got a skill really to perhaps look and see whether they can donate their skills to the project.
Great to have you with us this Monday evening. Still lots more. More news now, and a man has been charged with arson with intent to endanger life following a fire in North Suffolk. Police were called to Hutton Court in Eye at 3:30 on Sunday morning after reports of a house fire. As a precaution, 7 neighbours had to leave their homes in the early hours.
Well, we were just woken up by the police about 3:30 time and looked out at the door and there was fire and smoke coming out of here. And they just told us we've got to get out and took my daughter up the road to my mother-in-law's. Then we ended up in the fire station for about an hour and a half and we were allowed back about 5 o'clock.
And a separate arson attack has damaged the former headquarters of Suffolk County Council. Crews were called to County Hall in Ipswich last night, where fires had been started in a roof and a stairwell. An investigation is underway.
Detectives in Norfolk investigating the murder of 45-year-old Stephen Murphy from Fakenham have arrested a 4th man. Mr Murphy's body was found at his home in Kings Road last October. A 23-year-old from the Blackpool area is currently being questioned in Lancashire.
Police are appealing for witnesses after a cyclist was seriously injured in a hit-and-run accident in Essex. It happened yesterday morning on Station Lane in Ingatestone. The cyclist was dragged under a van for several hundred metres. 3 people were arrested and have been bailed until May.
A new report shows people in Norwich wasted around £1 million last year just because their houses weren't insulated properly.
Now the message is save energy and save money too. Rhiannon Mills reports.
It's getting cold, Coach. We put this fire on and get it going, get nice and warm, shall we?
The Dorling family have been warmer than ever this winter, installing wood burners and fitting lots more insulation. A push to save energy has really paid off.
When I moved in here last year, it was freezing cold, so now we've got more insulation. It's holding the heat longer, it just feels warmer, and we can actually get a really good temperature going here and sit around in T-shirts in the winter time when we've got the wood burners going.
It's a big contrast to the £1 million of heat energy apparently lost in the rest of Norwich through drafty windows, walls and roofs.
What we're doing is we're trying to give away some loft insulation so people have to run them out.
This weekend, shoppers out spending were getting advice from the Energy Saving Trust on how they could save instead.
The key thing we're trying to get across today is to make sure that you're fully insulated, so you're not wasting any heat. So that can be the loft or the walls. If you've got cavity walls, it's very easy to insulate.
Of course, most of us have heard of things like insulating our homes and maybe using some energy-saving light bulbs to save money. But here they're also telling us about something a little bit different.
You can't properly crash.
I don't know, I'm giving it quite a good go here. I'm not exactly doing terribly well at it, but this car simulator here will teach you not just how to save energy, but also potentially save some money too.
Change up through the gears as quickly as realistically possible, so you're driving in a higher gear, then you're going to be using, there's going to be less revs and therefore you're going to be using less fuel.
Stephen is now working on another way to drive down those bills and cut his carbon footprint. Solar panels for a summer house, which will also heat Chloe and Lamar's swimming pool. It's a big investment, but he believes it's more than worth it for the future. Rhiannon Mills, Anglia News in Norwich.
Sport now, and while Norwich